Hey folks, it's JG. I am playing Eternal Evolution, and I recorded this video last night, and then when I went to edit it, I discovered that my microphone was not set up properly in my recording software, and I had no audio in the whole video. So that was a couple minutes way down the drain. But we're gonna try this again tonight. I did a little bit of a mic check beforehand. Tonight, what I wanted to talk about was what I think is working well and what I think is not working in this game right now. So one of the things I do like about the game, the devs put out surveys pretty frequently asking folks for feedback. It seems like they're really interested in knowing what the community thinks. The latest survey was an opportunity to chat with the devs. I probably didn't win. I don't know if they've announced that yet. But anyway, I wanted to give some of my feedback on my channel anyway. So let's dive into what are the aspects of the game that I think are really well designed and what are the parts that are not really pulling their weight right now. Let's start in the base here. Up at the top, we've got the Outpost. I think this is lousy throwaway content. You know, the idea of being able to assign your folks to do other things and they can do better at it if they're higher level, that's an okay starting point. Honestly, the way it's executed, you just come in, you click quick dispatch, you come back in a few hours, you quick collect all, and you get some extra rewards. You know, it's free stuff, but there's really nothing engaging about this. I think this could be significantly overhauled. In the guild, I think there's some good and some bad here. So first, let's talk about the daily challenge. This is terrible. Let me move my camera real quick. So the one of the things really terrible here are these rewards. No matter how well you do, all you can get is some multiplier number of these same bad rewards. You know, elite level equipment. You outgrow this in like your first week of playing this game regularly. So getting 31 times that, 50 times that, I don't know, whatever level you're hitting this horned lizard at is not interesting. Honestly, this is so bad right now. I'm almost expecting a viewer to just drop a comment telling me that I missed some button that turns on the better version of this content. So on the bright side, there's a fast forward button, so you don't have to watch this play through every day, but it's really lame. The idea of a progressive fight that gets harder is decent in theory, but since the rewards are so bad, it's really not worth focusing on, not worth trying to optimize or improve very much. Furthermore, this is in the guild section, but there really is no guild component to this whatsoever. It is entirely an individual fight with bad rewards. So unless there's some secret button that my guild leaders are supposed to click that makes this suddenly be fun, I think this one's lousy content. It's not related to the guild. It is not fun to engage in. Now, on the other hand, the guild hunt, I think, is pretty well designed. I enjoy it quite a bit. I like this rotation of 3 different bosses with different strengths, different weaknesses, different sorts of teams you want to throw against them. It's also a collective guild-wide activity. You potentially can be planning, if you have some folks that are better at the AoE boss and some folks that are better at the summon boss, you can hold your team until your guild gets to the right level of it. So this one engages the guild. The rewards are reasonable. It's fun. It mixes itself up. It's not just the same every single time. And there's a sense of progression both individually and as a guild. This one's good. This is content that I enjoy and don't mind playing every day, even without the fast forward button. I'm eager to see what they do for the guild versus guild area. I think that could also add a nice component to guild. I will say the guild shop is kind of lame also. All you can buy is just a random piece of equipment, roughly once a day. I mean, I buy it. Actually, I need to buy it. I go for the boots because getting boots with the right stats on it is hard and valuable. But I think definitely they could spruce this up a fair amount. What else do we have out here? So Divine Prototype and Command Post, I think these are both fine. They're ways of progressing your account. Nothing too interesting to talk about here, but they work. The Recruitment Center, this is a thing that I've complained about before. I think they really messed up with the rarity distribution in this game. very early in the game, you outgrow all rare tier heroes. And so common and rare, 90% of the heroes in the game are just out, things that you throw away immediately, and you're only caring about elites. And with as quickly as my elites are progressing, it feels like I'm going to max out the elites not very long from now, and then I'll be in a stage where the only heroes that I ever care about getting are the triple S heroes. You can only get them in limited recruitment, sort of basic and advanced become really just trash, things that you hoard for the rare event where you get extra points for pulling them. So I think the distribution here is just kind of funky, and a lot of these gacha games, you're going to have people that are certainly going after the top tier rarity heroes. That's normal. But this game seems very skewed towards that, where you don't have to play the game very long before that's the only thing you care about. You really don't need to develop or draw any more of anything below the top tier. And that feels like it's going to get a little bit tiring over time. All right, now let's head to the perimeter and talk through the things here. Right at the top, we've got the Rise of Heroes. I have to say, I enjoy Rise of Heroes quite a bit. I frequently buy some of the extra tickets every day. There's a couple things I enjoy. So, number one, I like the sweep functionality where they have that. So, after you beat the content once, you don't have to watch it through again. You just auto sweep and spend the stuff really quickly. I like the multiple tiers of difficulty. Certainly, these days, I'm pretty easily clearing hell. So, I hope that they expand that difficulty a little over time. But the first couple times I encountered this, I was not all the way through the highest difficulty, and it was fun to have a level that I could compete at and still enjoy the content. I like this raffle system. So, one thing is this is worth competing in just because you get good stuff. Across all the tiers, if you're maxing out these gene hybrids, you get a full gene hybrid by the end of the event, and a fair number. Let's see, it's the first pools that have the recruitment cards, but you can get 20 25 limited recruitments plus a gene hybrid. So it's worth doing from that perspective. And if you hit this every day, and especially if you spend a few diamonds, you can get nice rewards out of it. And that's not even considering whether you're interested in this elite. So if you are interested in the elite, you certainly get a lot of dupes of a single elite. You can bring them to a really high level by the end of the event. So I think this one's nicely designed. It has reasonable rewards. The story part is kind of lame. I mean, this is not a highly story-driven game, but the rewards are good. The content is reasonable. It's just some simple wave-based fights and then a boss battle. But once you clear it, you can just keep hitting the rewards. So it's not overly exciting, but this is solid content that I enjoy. Now let me tell you which piece of content I really don't enjoy. That is the soul mine. So there's several pieces of content that work in roughly the same way, and I think all of them are pretty lame. It's the soul mine, both the soul mine side and the faction-specific side, as well as the main story. So all of them use this same sort of progression theme, where it's basically infinitely long with steadily growing difficulty. And the problem is you only get the rewards the first time you clear a stage. A little different for story, because in the story mode, it increases your AFK rewards from patrol. But what it means is there's really no incentive to do well in this content. If I'm stuck at a particular level in the soul mine, I could maybe move my team around and manual the level and see if I can squeeze past it. But why? Really, if I just wait another week for my heroes to level up a little bit more, then they'll be able to auto it. And so next week I'll have the rewards. None of these rewards are so compelling that it's something you have to have today. It's just your Rubelite income will you'll get a little bit of a boost to it if you clear a few more floors. So these like high watermark things, progressive difficulty, since there's no reason to do better now, it's like I don't play this on most days. Once a week I maybe remember and see if my team can auto its way just a little bit further. But it doesn't really matter to me whether they succeed or not. It's not content that is worth doing well in. The faction side, I think it's a little bit better because I like when the game makes you mix up your teams and try different team building mechanics. So building a faction only team is kind of interesting. It's a new mechanic, but combining that with this really lame reward mechanic of just see how high you can get, and you'll get one reward one time only for clearing a particular level, it's not fun. Now, a lot of the rest of the perimeter, I think, is pretty solid. Disa Caves, Terradome, Sensaro Marsh, these daily dungeons, I think they work great. I like the aspect of being able to spend multiple stamina at once, so you fight each of these once a day. I usually put 10 stamina into Disa Caves because I want the maximum amount of equipment, and then just do the 3 in the other 2. I manual them right now. In each battle, I have one hero whose energy skill needs to go off at just the right time or just the right place, and so I manual one hero for each one, but I only have to do it once a day, so the time investment isn't bad, the reward is reasonable, and I like that the mechanics are a little bit different. It's not just that you're doing the same thing in every sort of type of fight. The one thing I will say, I'm already in level 15 for almost all of these. I'm still getting there in Terradome, so that's the max level they have right now. We're going to need some new difficulty levels over time because I'm not that deep in the game, and soon the only way for me to progress here will just be to try to clear it faster or clear it on auto. But I hope that there's an opportunity later to challenge a harder level of these. Let's talk about Rift Fissure next. This is kind of interesting content. There's a limited number of them, which is okay. I haven't done this last one. I keep meaning to do it, but I kind of like the puzzle component. The story component, again, is not great. This is not a deeply story-focused game. The puzzle aspect is kind of fun, and I do like the battle mechanic here, where if you have people die, they remain dead, and so it's sort of Thunderdome mode, where you have to make your team last until the very end. I think it prompts you making some real decisions in your team building. You don't always want to put your best team in right away. If someone in there dies, you might have more trouble later. In this case, it's not really progressive difficulty, so as long as you're strong enough, you can just smash through it. I mean, this was open so long ago, I'm sure it's going to be a walk in the park for me. But this is okay content. It's pretty well done. It's certainly not the things on the bottom of my list. Wasteland, on the other hand, is not great at all. I have to say, I think the devs know this already. They sent out a survey. The last iteration of the survey was asking questions about Wasteland. I think they know it's not great. I do try to do it every day because you get soul potions, and those are hard to come by in general. And so it's worth picking them up wherever you can. But the content is not fun. For me, it looks like it actually took a big jump in difficulty for me today. But in general, the content is just too easy. All the battles in here are too easy. I'm grateful for the fast forward button so I don't have to watch them all, but it means I don't have to think at all in the Wasteland. It's just a clicking competition. I go through, click on a battle, click to fast forward, click on a battle, click to fast forward, click on a battle, click to fast forward. It's completely lame. And then in between you have these artifacts that you can pick up, but it's so easy that it doesn't matter which artifact I pick up, so I just click as fast as I can through that. Similarly, the events that you run into, I haven't really exhaustively tested the rewards I get from them, but I've certainly noticed that there are some events where I get the same rewards from option 1 as I do from option 2 some of the time. So overall, across the entire Wasteland, it feels like my decisions don't matter. What team I use, what artifacts I pick, what choices I pick, what path I go down, none of it really matters. So all I do is just rush to get as many of the Wasteland chests as I can, hit up all of those and get through it. It's just a time waster. It's a time waster that I do because the rewards are a thing that I need, but it is not fun at all. I could spend a bunch of time talking about how I would improve Wasteland, but I would prefer that there were more of a gradated difficulty level where, if you can choose multiple paths, you can choose the easy path or the hard path. And if you choose the hard path, it'll scale up fast enough that you might not be able to get through all of it, but it's worth trying because you get bigger rewards. Something like that would make the decisions matter and make it something where you actually think about, do you want to go fast or do you want to go hard? And things like that. Arenas next. There's 3 different arena options. I think although there's some really similar mechanics across all of them, they actually vary pretty widely in how well designed they are. Let's talk about regular arena first. Regular arena is terrible. It is not a place where I want to spend my time, and that is entirely because of the reward system here. Let's look at the ranking rewards. I usually hang out in this 21 to 50 area. 380 diamonds per day, 800 extra diamonds per week, and 70 of the weakest kind of rune every week. And that's pretty much, if I fell down from this to place 200, I'm just getting 30 fewer diamonds a day, 100 fewer diamonds a week, and 10 fewer elite runes. Like, it's not worth it to try to push between levels here. The increase in rewards is tiny, and these are not interesting rewards. Diamonds, I'm still hoarding diamonds, but I spend some of them every day, but they're not that great. If you look even at the very top place, basic recruitment, as I said earlier, basic recruitment is dead to me already. I don't need the things that come out of it. And then seasonally, some advanced recruitment rewards. At the very top end, 20 advanced recruitment cards per week is not bad, but not everyone can compete in rank 1, 2, and 3. Below that, everything is completely worthless. And so it just makes it's not worth trying to do well in here. You can spend diamonds here to get extra fights. Why would I spend 50 diamonds to try to do slightly better? If I can boost my rank pretty substantially, then my diamond haul for the day goes up by 20, and that's if I spent 50 diamonds to do it. The exchange isn't worth it. And so the overall mechanic of the arena, the battles themselves, are designed just fine, but the incentives aren't put together well here. So there's not an incentive to really try to improve your ranking. Just do as well as is easy for you to do. When I pull up the challenge here, I always do the same thing. I just go to the bottom, pick off someone whose combat power is significantly below mine so that I can win them all. Because even though that's the smallest gain in your rating, I don't care about the rating, but you do get those side rewards for winning the battles, 10 soul potions or something to that effect. And so, I just go for those side rewards because they're better than anything else. I don't care about my rank. My rank does nothing for me. So compared to that, Galactic Arena, I think, is a lot better designed. The rewards are actually useful here. So if we look at the shop, you can pick up a particular Triple S hero. You can pick up, I haven't got this yet for the week. You can pick up these limited recruitment cards. You can pick up advanced recruitment cards. These are things that everyone needs. I don't know if they're going to rotate it over time or if it's just going to be res forever here. Because certainly after you're done grabbing these particular elites, and after you're done maxing res, then the value of this is going to go down pretty significantly. But those are rewards that are worth having, and so upping your ranking here is something that is worth fighting for. So I do try to do pretty well here. I usually sit in Diamond 1, Diamond 2, or sometimes in the Master, low end of Master for just a little while. This one, ironically, has the opposite problem of the regular arena, that there's almost no incentive to spend your battle cards. If I'm still in Diamond 1, which is where I usually sit, I know I'm not going to win the harder fights, and doing the lower fights does nothing for me. I don't know why they put this one at the bottom. Actually, today there's an event where you get tokens in the event from winning a Galactic Arena fight, so that's the only time that I do this and just knock down someone who's at a lower level, but you get literally 0 rewards on a normal day from any of that. So most days I again am not using these at all. I might use 1 or 2. If I drop down to a tier lower than where I usually am, then I'll use 1 ticket to just buy my way into a higher tier. So I think it's kind of interesting that anytime you beat someone, you just trade rankings with them. It certainly makes the rankings a lot more volatile. But because of that mechanic, it creates less incentive to just grind out daily fights. You don't get ranking points from a typical fight. It's only if you pick off someone who's at a higher level than you are. finally, Summit Arena. The battle mechanics are the same as in Galactic Arena. It's just 3 5-on-5 fights. I like the idea here, combining multiple servers together and having an elimination tournament. I have to say the thing that I'm not a big fan of is the particular stages here. I'm a pretty decent player here. I'm not in the top 10 on my server, but I'm in the top couple of percent of my server, I think, in the top 10% for sure. But because of how tight these rounds are, I make it into these qualifier rounds, and let's see, like the summit round is only a round of 16. I'm not even top 16 on my server, and so I'm definitely not top 16 when you put multiple servers together. So the first couple rounds are kind of fun, but if you're not really an elite level player, then the fun kind of ends for you early. I like the aspect of being able to bet on other people's teams. That said, it seems like most people just like bet on max combat power. Taking the time to actually examine all the teams in detail would take a lot of time, and the rewards for calling it right are not that great. Overall, nice idea here. I wish that players that aren't at the very top level could maybe participate a little bit longer, and but otherwise, this is fine. The rewards, once again, are good. There's something, it's worth trying to compete in this and do well in it, and so it's an area that I'm willing to pay attention to. All right, we've got just a little bit left, and they are things that I like quite a bit. Ancient Altar first. I think this is a nicely designed boss. There's a couple things that are good about it. Number one, once again, the rewards are good. So although this does take a fair amount of attention from you, at least 5 times a week, the milestone rewards are good. This is one of the few places where you can sort of farm those advanced recruitment cards, and also you get the 4-piece equipment sets that you can't get anywhere else. So it's worth trying to do well at this. The difficulty progression is good. I mentioned that I maxed out the dungeons, but in here, I'm just breaking into hell, and as you can see, this was 1 ticket into hell. I'm barely chipping away at it, so it feels like it's got a nice difficulty curve to it. I think I've seen people that have been in the game a little longer being able to one-shot hell, so they might need to add some additional difficulty levels over time. But I think the difficulty levels are spaced out nicely. There's a way for you to get pretty good rewards, even if you're just at the lower levels, but a good incentive to progress. And then I like the aspect of 3 different bosses with 3 different mechanics where you can't reuse any heroes across them. So you've got to build 3 teams. You've got to prioritize your hardest hitters for the right places. In general, you want your best people against Quinta himself because that's where you actually rack up points. But still being able to knock away some of his skills certainly makes that fight easier. I think they could maybe amplify a little bit the effect that you get from defeating those minions ahead of time. I think it's not quite as significant as it could be. But this is good content. It's worth trying to invest in. The rewards are good, and it's got unique mechanics, so you're not just doing the same lame things over and over. Finally, Twilight Lands. It's not open right now, but I have to say this is probably my favorite piece of content in the game, are these Twilight Lands events. Now, the ironic thing is it bears a lot of similarity to the soul mine mechanic that I really hate, which is progressive difficulty, and you just see how far you can get. The big thing that differentiates it is because it is limited time content, it plays completely differently. So whereas in Soul Mine, there's kind of no point in me playing today because if I don't beat it today, I'll beat it tomorrow. Twilight Lands, it's only open for a couple of weeks, and you can only get the rewards while it's open. And so there's really an incentive to hit it as hard as you can, to climb as high as you can, and because of the leaderboard mechanic, to climb as fast as you can. And so it's something that's worth trying to choose your teams carefully, trying to manual battles if you need to aim your skills just right or save them for the right moment. I really like that time-based leaderboard where ultimately progressing faster and with fewer refreshes is something that rewards you. When I first saw it, I thought it was just going to be whoever is on the server at time of reset would have an advantage based on their time zone. But as I got into it, I realized no, it gets hard enough fast enough that currently I don't see people on my server that are able to just clear the whole thing in one day. And so it's really a question of how far can you get in a day, and you get rewarded based on that. The leaderboard rewards are nice. Once again, I'm not in the very top tier of this, but there are good rewards for being top 10%, top 5%. Being at the high end is worthwhile. And so it's worth trying to do your best in Twilight Lands. So when you have this progressive difficulty, I think pairing it with limited time rewards, limited time events, and the ability to reset over time makes that progressive difficulty a lot more fun. I think Wasteland could follow a similar model. What if instead of just 3 stages, it were infinite stages, but they get twice as hard in between. And so you're going to hit a cliff in there. But if you can push further, you start getting bigger and bigger rewards. If that happened and it reset daily, that would also be a more fun Wasteland mechanic and would be much better than this soul mine thing, where, again, it doesn't matter if I clear it today, I'll clear it someday and I'll get one-time rewards, and they're not that great. Finally, there's Story and Elite Campaign. Story, as I already mentioned, it's very similar to Soul Mine in the basic mechanic there. There's slightly more incentive to progress because of the patrol rewards that you stack up over time. So this is something I don't touch on most days. Every once in a while, if I've had a good evolution fest and leveled up a lot of my heroes, I'll remember that probably I can progress a little more, and I'll go ahead and do the token advancement. But it's not fun. There's also no fast forward on it, so even if you're able to progress through another 20 levels, you just have to tap it, put it on auto, and then just set your phone down and watch it for a while and let it tell you when it's done. Plus, every time it hits the end of a chapter, you have to tap it again. So just the mechanics are annoying. Even when you're progressing through it, it's not fun to play. It's not fun to watch. It's a chore. It's something that you babysit. Content that you babysit is not ideal for a game like this. Elite Campaign, on the other hand, I think does somewhat better in the mechanics, although the rewards need a little bit of fixing. I like this aspect of every 3 fights, there is a specific challenge to do. Beat it with a team composition with a certain shape to it, or beat it in 45 seconds. That encourages you to mix up the team and try to make sure you really optimize for the fight that you're in. I think that's pretty nice. I like the aspect also of being able to choose through here which elite fragments that you're getting, so that you're really going after the heroes that you want to get. That said, all of these are just elite, and none of them are triple S, and you pick up a max of about 3 shards per day. So that is a really slow rate. Even the ones that I'm focusing on, if I'm focusing, right now I'm focusing on getting a Murfiro, actually just so I can use him as an example for doing science on and figuring out how stats progress. But I digress. Still, it is a multi-week excursion to get 1 copy of 1 elite. So those rewards need tweaking. The rate at which you get those shards is not really interesting. But because the mechanics are varied a little bit here, and there are reasons to change your team around in some of these boss fights to get these star chest rewards, I think it's definitely better than the classic story mode. As with story mode and Soul Mine, I don't really play it every day, by which I mean I don't really try to progress it every day. I do come in and use sweep to auto-spend my tickets and pick up some of those rewards. So that's it. Those are the game mechanics that I think are well designed and the ones that I think are poorly designed. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Let me know what are the things that you like or that you'd like to see more of in the game. That's all for tonight. JG out.